The following podcast may contain spoilers.
Hey everybody, we missed you last week. Hello. This is Treading the Path of Heaven, our podcast about Chinese, Japanese, and Korean fantasy. Is that the order we go in? I wasn't doing it in like the order. I was just listing countries.
It was like an off the dome ad lib.
I mean, if you must, Chinese, Korean, Japanese stories.
Thank you. I appreciate
That you feel better?
I appreciate that very much.
Well, I guess with that, this week we are speaking about a Japanese story. I am Jonathan, joined by my co-hosts
I'm Bill.
I'm Richard.
and our self-proclaimed perennial guest.
One day I'll proclaim myself to be something else, but for now, perennial guest Seth.
And today we're doing a Japanese novel.
It's Richard's book.
Wow.
It is, and
This is
I have
not my
definitely
book.
not read this.
This is definitely not my book. But
No,
it's
man,
a
this
book
is your
I've read.
favorite. This is your favorite. You
This
told
is-
us all about how you wanted to talk about this book, and it was going to be, you've been studying it for weeks, and it's,
This
you know,
is not. Those
think that
are
was
not
last week.
words that happened. Those are not words that happened at all.
Yeah, actually, most of the conversations that I hear about this book have been like, I guess we could do Road to Kingdom. Yeah, fuck it.
So the reason why I even started reading Road to Kingdom, fun fact is, I had finished a couple books, right? I had like finished one, and I had like their memorial tab on my phone and on my tablet, and I'm like, I guess it's time to replace these. And I'm like, oh man, what is this Japanese novel that's getting all this upvotes on /r novel translations? I guess I'll read it, even though it says in a not safe for work on it. And
Bum,
guys,
bum,
this is
ba-dum.
very not safe for work. Now this is called Road to Kingdom, and it would be a good novel if it wasn't for parts I'll discuss later. Can I get the novel translations from you?
Sure. The novel updates says, this is the story of a young slave gladiator in an underground arena. He doesn't know about his past or how he got to where he is, only that his name is Ager, and that he is strong.
Is he?
One day he kills the boss and escapes the arena, joining a band of mercenaries as a new recruit. During one mission, they encounter the vampire, Lucy, oh goody, who
the
slaughters the
vampire.
band with her inhuman strength, as they do. After learning that Ager only knows how to kill, Lucy lets him stay at her house, educating and taking care of him.
But is Agar, all right, so like serious questions here. Is Agar like strong compared to her inhuman strength, or is he only
He has
strong?
superhuman strength.
Okay, so he
He's
too
not a-
has inhuman
He's
strength.
not as strong as she is because she's freakishly demon strong, but as he ages, he's like you guys ever read, Romance of the Three Kingdoms?
I mean, parts, yeah.
You know, the guy who rides red hair and
Lu Bu?
he's
Among men, Lu
Lu
Bu?
yeah,
Among horses, red hair?
he's Lu Bu strong.
Huh?
It's actually insane how genetically powerful, but continue.
Yes, this continues with 2 years pass, and on the day of Ager's departure, they both exchange a promise that if Ager becomes a king and owns the land of Erg Forest, he can come and take her as his woman. Making this his life goal, Ager set out on a journey to become a hero, a king, and found his own kingdom.
Cool, that's what I'm into. Let's go for it.
So I'm going to start with the positive parts of this.
Woo!
From this, this glances over one, how if you start reading this novel, it is grimy how good the combat is. Like the killing, the sense of cutting flesh is very, I don't know if you guys ever watched that show, Spartacus, Blood and Sand, the first one, where it was like, it had that Greek viewpoint of like, that Roman viewpoint of sex and killing and all that other stuff. And I was gritty.
Spartacus, blood and tits, yeah.
Yeah, Spartacus Blood and Tits is very much like that with child slaves at first, and he's just a child. All he knows, it puts you into his seat, and he's like on his 100th battle, and he's killing a dude, and he's explaining to him how he's using this sword, who's like 3 times the size of his body, and he's explaining how fast he is. They bring in like like soldiers. They bring in like former knights who's trying to fight to, save someone. And it's the deep, dark, seedy portions of the nobles here. And then, they talk about all this crap and all these situations that are going on, but it gives you this really, you get to be in the shoes of an idiot slave boy who just knows how to kill and how he goes about his escape. Because as slaves, especially gladiator slaves are to do, after he wins, they have a noblewoman there, right? And she decides, I want that kid as a sex slave. So they bring him in there, and he's standing there,
Yeah.
And
again, I've seen the first season of Spartacus, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
He's not chained. She asks him to be unchained, so he's unchained. And then she asks him to let him pose with his sword. So the boss lets him do that. Now, he's unsure, but Aeger's been here his entire life, and he's never rebelled, ever. Aeger then takes that sword, and after the lady's like groping him, and takes the sword and shoves it through her fucking chest, and then kills the other dude, and then proceeds to, now that I'm like, kill all of the guards there and release all the other children. And then he just escapes.
I did have I don't know, maybe I've read a sufficient amount of Kazuo Koike, but I did just have the image of, with the sword you described, him swinging the sword with the women still impaled on it and killing all the other people.
He does that a couple times, yes.
Okay, good.
Because he's unnaturally strong. But this is also a fantasy world where they literally have, not only do they have parody of, old Eastern Europe, like medieval Eastern Europe style. He actually, you get to get more of the world when he meets Lucy later, when she murders his mercenary band and only keeps him.
What is Lucy's hair color? Is there a definite?
I think she's just blonde.
That would
Of
explain
course.
everything. Cool.
I mean, how can you have a non-Eastern Europe or non-European vampire, I guess?
Yeah. It's actually they explain the adventurer system, the guild system, all of the governments, in the general area, the population of the different areas, places he can go. Because the parts about this book that are really good are, one, the world building is really good. Two, when he actually does take part in a coup d'etat of one city, because he travels first, and then he joins a mercenary group that then gets conscripted as the king's the second prince's personal guard. And then they do a coup d'etat and they kill the king's brother. Then they become new nobles. So you're dealing with formal, plebs becoming nobles and all of that drama. And then the fact that the second prince, who's now king, is incredibly ambitious. So him taking over, countries and fucking over neighbors because they have a small population, but they have a lot more agriculture, dealing with manipulating that, dealing with triggering international incidents, by doing war games on the border of his land that he finally has, to trigger the dudes into and giving money and handing out money and weapons to revolting peasants in this land, and then giving out the idea that if you come to my land, you will live tax free for 2 years, and I will also hand you free land. So now their peasants are not only rebelling, they're trying to escape the opposing countries. So they're triggering wars, because not only are that country's military trying to kill the peasants are trying to escape, and so they're shooting at the peasants. And they make the mistake of, one, shooting arrow over the border, two, it landing and just glancing a piece of his flag, because he had flags everywhere, triggering war. So of course Aeger then leads his armored cavalry in, because and then he pushes 7-8 cities in with his armored corps. He becomes the king of the barbarians in secret.
Yeah, no, I kind of love this idea.
This sounds like Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah,
I mean, there was the Three Kingdoms reference earlier, but I
this is Three Kingdoms.
Yeah, no, the absolute idea that I'll just send in my army with my hero unit, mainly my hero unit.
Ager is the hero unit. There's a part where he like holds an entire blockade by himself of armored soldiers coming in while his men fight here, and he's like, they will not pass this part by himself. His body ends up covered in so many wounds, and he's literally bleeding to death. He fought for like 12 hours straight. The main character's about to die, and they barely save him because his constitution is ridiculous. But
Of
he has
course.
so many wounds on his body.
Great warrior Krokta, Boltar.
Pretty much.
but could he have done it while carrying a baby?
I mean,
He probably wouldn't, but he could have done it while carrying a woman.
hey,
Because that's one
Young
thing.
Chi. All right.
So that's a different thing.
I'm about to get to the reason why I can't recommend this novel.
Oh shit! This was secretly a tread in the path of hell.
This is weird because the parts that are good are really good. The parts that are bad are obscenely bad, and the parts that are bad are the sex scenes. Because our character not only is a horn dog, he needs to have sex with every woman he runs across.
Well, I mean, like,
It's graphic. They dedicate whole chapters to
feel
it.
lament, like, hear the laments of my enemies. You know, I mean,
have
the
them
The
barbarian
barbarian
way.
lamentations of the women, yes. The problem here is they explain in detail. Okay, so they call his penis a meat rod.
Of course.
It is so large, women don't know what to do with. Like, it like destroys them physically.
Well, that's
course.
not
They use
good.
it as punishment with anal for some women who join his harem and rebel. Let's see. He shoots so much semen you can physically hear it shooting out.
like in hentai, where it makes a noise.
No.
like-
More like it sounds like a hose shooting water out.
Yeah, it's like he just dumped a bucket.
Yeah.
It's just
Splat.
They literally talk about
destroy any reproductive system.
they
He will never
finish
have an heir.
having sex. No. He had so many heirs. He like you'll understand.
it's
2 years have passed in this. No. So since he left Lucy, like 3 years have passed, right? He is a baron. He has land. He is the secret king of all the barbarian nation in the mountains. He's had his run-in with dwarves. Dwarves have made him a super heavy adamantine weapon
Of course.
because he can drink like with the best of them.
Whoa, what's his weapon?
Halberds. Giant halberds. They like so heavy and he's shooting so hard. Like a normal metal halberd isn't tough enough because he'll break it because he'll kill someone's horse and then swing the horse or something and it'll snap his weapon.
So that
That's
reminds me of the
Guan
King
Yu?
of Jaya from our D&D campaign.
Yeah. He's the king of Jaya, except he's the king of Jaya. There's a point where he has a ghost join his harem. He goes ghost busting with his dick.
I'm sorry, he fucks a ghost.
Yes.
Bustin makes
all
him
the
feel
time.
good.
And no, like he can see her, but not everyone can see her. So people who can't see her see him with his dick
He's
going
just
into
fucking
nothing.
the air.
And
Oh,
then
man.
Ghostbusters 2's her.
When it does his bucket of cum ejaculate, it just goes everywhere because she's a ghost.
Oh, it doesn't even get caught by her incorporeal form.
It does not
Can't have ghost
unless
babies?
she's in full what is it? Poltergeist form.
Richard, this book sounds fucking stupid.
The parts that are awesome is the military, them explaining how his lieutenants handle leading his military because he himself is not very good at leading. He can fight,
Sure.
but they explain how him training Celia and this other guy who is only with him because one, you seem like someone who has potential, and I want to be important and I want to be part of my own country. And because this guy, pretty much, you know how, what is it? Guanju's big brother. I'm trying to remember his name. I can't remember his
Liu
name.
Bei?
Liu Bei. You know how he gets his strategist?
Yeah, he just is very polite and goes there like 3 times, and then his little brother sets his house on fire.
Pretty much. This guy was looking for a job and he gets his master strategist who's so insanely good. But the problem is he doesn't give a fuck about human life.
That seems like a
But-
bad strategist.
No, it's great because it's not so much he doesn't give. He only cares about the most efficient way of winning this battle, conserving his troops and murdering as many of theirs as possible. So he fights incredibly dirty and incredibly efficiently. But on top of that, when he has another mission where he went out and they took over this country, he ends up hiring a guy. His name is Adolf. He was a political prisoner in his own country for one, being just a very good civil servant and caring about people. So he has one guy who runs his city and is good at managing the economics of his city. And they go in detail about the economics and managing the people and the human element. And he also has this dude who's good at the military and he's just sterile and surgical.
And the second reason he was there was because of killing all the Jews.
It's so what you're telling me is
Adolf is just German. This is his name.
you're telling me this is like EVE Online complexity in fantasy realm, but
Yeah.
we're fucking
We're fucking
okay.
everywhere. He
And-
fucks
and
prostitutes. So
not-
he'll be out.
Why? He's
He'll
got
be-
a harem.
He has
What's
a
wrong with
giant
him?
harem. He has like 40, 50
Not
kids
enough.
at this point.
rod is insatiable.
But he's insatiable. Yes. He has so many women.
He's got a fucking harem.
But
He's
he
got
also will just fuck
handpicked-
prostitutes.
God, it's just
To the point where and he'll check to see if like the vagina's clean, to see if, he'll get.
gotta check
an
to make sure it's
infection.
clean.
They also talk about like other dudes who are in missionary and STDs exist in this world, but somehow
Oh
this
shit!
filthy piece of
Fantasy
shit-
STDs.
Yes.
Richard, let's talk about fantasy STDs. Come on, give me two examples of their fantasy
Dude, They
STDs.
explain in detail like the just how foul some of these vaginas and penises
like
can
demon
be.
warts. Demon warts. I'm just trying
On
to
a
imagine
level
like
of like what we already have and like possession.
no, like
what-
my dick was haunted.
Yeah,
I accidentally fucked a haunted lady, and now my dick's haunted.
Like where are we at? Like on that radar here. Like
It's a lot like ours.
okay.
Like imagine if you had like a combination of like gonorrhea and genital warts.
Okay, so it's more of like ours, but like
But then again,
strapped
he
together
just
with
so
duct
happened to just start meeting women of other races and species.
So he could
So
be.
who knows? There's probably some dwarf.
He could be his
STDs.
own
Gotta
disease
catch 'em
vector.
all.
Sure.
Huh?
Gotta catch them all.
Gotta catch him all, this nasty piece of shit.
Patient
and the thing
zero ass
is,
motherfucker.
his wives are also developed, but then they like destroy them with. It's hard to take certain characters seriously, and it's hard to like. They'll endure a character that's been there since the beginning. Her name is Celia. She was a character I really
Of course
cared
she
about.
was.
And she was young. She was basically his daughter, bro. Like pretty much. And he has converted this precious child, who's also his squire, his lieutenant, goes to battle with him, into a tool for sex. And it was awful. It was the worst thing I've ever read in my life.
I think I figured it out.
She
This story is a story about, hey, why don't we show you something good and then have sex with it?
pretty much. But here's the problem. We understood that Celia like they did good character development for this character. She thinks of him as a father, to the point where when they do their shitty sex scene and all other stuff, she asks, "Can I call you dad?"
Ew.
That's his. Yes, you understand it where I'm at. See, I'm like
All
100
right, so
chapters
dear
in.
listener, careful if you read this one. You may be treading the path of hell.
No, I think we landed in treading the path of purgatory. Is what it sounds like.
No,
Richard,
no.
This is hell.
If there's a sex scene where one of the girls is, "Can I call you dad?"
No, I'm saying in just in general, it sounds like Richard has us in a treading the path of purgatory.
See, that
was-
is one thing. It is one thing if that scene happens and it's a person's fantasy and they're doing it with like a safe word and shit. It's another thing if that person has basically raised you
Yes.
and
that's
then
fair.
that scene happens.
Yes, that was like I can't, dude. Guys, why are y'all doing this? There's a point where like they have all these they've developed these characters where like you have moms bringing that he's courted and forced to become his woman, and then he didn't chooses. I want your teenage daughter too.
Like, this is basically the abomination guy in the wild, like in the fucking north in Game of Thrones.
Pretty much. This is basically it.
Like, he
And
feels
he
like a
has so
character
many
that
fucking
is
kids.
only supposed to be forgiven because he's the protagonist.
You like they don't even write it for you to forgive him. It's just like you go to like, we're gonna just accept that this dude is doing this. But like when he did that with Celia, it was one of those, I no longer like you. I like the story, like I like everything about the combat. I like the fights. I like the kingdom management and the expansion of him having the ambition to become a king, to get what will be his true wife, Lucy, back. And you get backstory that Lucy actually comes from like a kingdom that dissolved 400 years ago. The gold he was given when he left is so valuable because it's from 400 years ago and has the sign of that old kingdom. The fantasy elements when he meets the dwarf areas and all that, really cool. But then you have these awful sex scenes with characters that are near and dear to you, that you've seen her learn to fight. You've seen her get new life because she was like an orphan assassin girl who was just going to, people were sending her to kill people. And then he had a conversation with her. It was like some Batman and Robin shit, right? Like he talked to her and he explained that you have a couple options available to you. You can continue to be a slave like I was. And he motivates her, and then she leaves and then kills her handlers. And then joins him and is like, he names her, he cleans her up, gives her reason to being, raises her, teaches her how to use a weapon. Same way Lucy did him. And I think it's like the fact that Lucy kind of like mind destroyed Lucy basically being his first mom and first lover at the same time. And he pretty much did that to Celia, but the age difference and the way that she was so much more dependent on him emotionally, this really fucked him up, because they also introduced characters that were her age.
Like,
that little boy has a crush on Celia. It's like him mind destroying the boy, and then later this boy who's surrounded by his mother figure being fucked in front of him by Ager, and all this other stuff. And he's like, you know what? I see this boy is literally losing his mind because there's a boy who's going through puberty, seeing sex all the time and can't do anything, because if he touches any of Ager's women or even flirts with him, Ager will viciously kill him, because Ager won't let any man touch one of his women ever.
Like, seriously, like this person would be killed by my Chinese main characters. Like, because they would have like stepped to him. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is the ideal version of this book would be this book, but with all the shitty sex scenes taken out?
You can do nods at the sex scenes. Celia should never have happened. That shit should never have happened.
I assume, too, like, based on the way that you're saying it, that the book kind of was like, yeah, this is an awesome scene, right?
Yes.
Like, it wasn't presented as like, man, this is kind of weird. It was yeah, we've all been waiting for this, is how they, like...
Yes and no. The way it's done, the way the translator even wrote it in detail, it's very like, it felt wrong. Like Ager also felt wrong with it happening.
All right,
but she understood. He didn't feel wrong doing the act. He felt wrong when he really thought, like he's a dumb guy. So when he really thought about it, he was like, that's kind of fucked up, but whatever. I like vagina.
Yeah, my dick got wet.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
God damn.
All right, Richard, where do you come down on this one?
Huh?
Where do you come down on this one?
What do you mean?
Are you suggesting that people read it at all?
Mean, he said that he can't in good conscience recommend it.
I can't recommend it, but like, it's one of those that it could be a good novel. Like it has all the qualities required to be a good novel.
Sure.
With the worst sex scenes ever. And I don't mind sex scenes being in a novel. I don't mind that.
Right.
But have them be tasteful. And they go from being okay, like the beginning with Lucy, is okay. It's written pseudo-tastefully and all other stuff. Then it just gets like shock hour. Like when he buys a hooker lady, right? He shows up in like this northern stuff, and he has one girl on there, and he's promised to get revenge for her family being killed by that and all other stuff. Another noble. There's a lot of interesting story elements. He meets a woman who was incredibly attractive, but she's also a hook, a prostitute. But she's a prostitute that barely makes any money. She's good with her hands and with her mouth.
Then
She doesn't
why
make
would
any
she
money.
not be making any money?
The reason being is because she was with a customer. She cracked a little bit. It was very like, what is it? Unforgiven. The Unforgiven. Ever seen The Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood?
Yeah.
Where that guy cut up a prostitute because she made a joke or
Right.
laughed a little bit. This woman had her vagina mutilated. Like viciously, like nothing's there. She can no longer have kids. She always dreamed of having kids.
You know we're a quality book when you got vagina mutilation as a main story point.
It's fine because Ager still, one, ends up loving her, and two, still sees value in her, and three, he can actually, it's another thing, he's so large, he can actually still pleasure her. So she can actually feel like a woman having sex.
What a treat.
But it's one of those, he also gives her children to take in so she can take care of. She always wanted to be a mother.
Sure.
So she has a story arc and all other stuff.
He's got too many of those.
Because he has too many of those, basically. But
Saving people with the stick.
at the same time, you'll have something cool where you're like, oh man, I didn't think they would go with that, where it's like a woman prostitute who not only has to work as a prostitute because, again, it was the only way she could make money.
Right.
Two, losing her value as a prostitute. Three, regaining her value as the concubine of a lord. And he offered to make her an official wife, and she said, don't worry about it, because that will make you look bad for politics.
Wow.
They even discussed, like, in the harem, which woman should be the first wife for reasons required for X, or things you have to do for to play this Game of Thrones. Like the behind all of this disgusting shit, there's a really good story.
Yeah, every time you dip out of the sex stuff, I get really interested, and then every time you dip back in, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that's my problem.
And that sounds rough.
That's my problem. Like, I literally have to skip whole chapters because it's like, oh man, this same sex scene again. Oh man,
Dude,
they
I
gotta
mean,
go
like,
get a bucket to catch all the cum falling out of her.
Again, I have no issues with sex in novels. Like one of my favorite fantasy series ever, the Symphony of Ages by Elizabeth Hayden, like has a bunch of like semi-graphic sex scenes, but like
Oh man, I stole a couple of those books from you.
they're still good. But like it just sounds like why does the content of the sex scenes have to be so weird?
I have no clue. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say like maybe it was translation, but
no,
it
it's not.
sounds like the actual.
I would say
The
like,
translation's
focus.
actually really good. It's like, kudos to what? Well, let me get their website. Kudos to these dudes because they do.
Light novels translation.
Yeah, they do a fantastic translation. They're consistent. They output the stuff. They do all the extra stuff.
You're just saying they need to edit better.
No,
Take some of that shit out.
No, they need
but that would take away from it because
talk
that's,
to their
Yeah,
author.
no, it's
and
not
then-
the original work anymore.
yeah,
No, I get you.
like
Maybe you yourself can release a reading guide for Road to Kingdom, where it just tells you what to
all the shit
and
that's
not.
good.
Yeah,
like even
all
like,
the shit that's
I'll
good and
even
all the
keep
shit
in
to
a couple
skip.
of sex scenes that are actually good. Like,
Yeah.
Road to Kingdom, road best traveled.
world best traveled.
Oh man, come on now.
Like the one-page version of Road to Kingdom, where
Exactly
I skip
that.
over random prostitutes he has sex with because we'll be in an awesome military campaign, and then they'll have a one-off chapter where he's walking through this place they're occupying, and then he finds a whore and then fucks the whore in the corner of a street, and he's trying to do it so his wives don't catch him doing it because they don't want him doing that.
Of course
Oh,
they
yeah.
wouldn't.
And they don't want him bringing back even more women because every time he goes out, he brings home another woman.
Stop bringing home whores, dummy.
Or
You
like,
see-
or he'll defile like a noblewoman, or he'll defeat a general. One of his new concubines is this former general, who he ends up defeating her and another person's army, and then their country dissolves and they take over they annex their country, and then because she's beautiful and he takes her virginity and all other shit, he guarantees the life of her men and her family. And then he also gets her a minor noble in his country as his personal servant because he had sex with her and he became her woman.
Goddamn.
but she's also like a good general, and she has to defile herself as a knight and a woman, and she hates Ager, but at the same time, because his meat rod is so powerful.
See,
Oh, yeah,
like,
man.
here's the problem here, because like the only way I could see a book like this being like written by an author, like as an author, you got to be like, all right, I want to write a book that's a little bit dirty. So how am I going to do this? Right? I gotta take this book, and I gotta make the sex important. So how's the sex going to be important? His dick's going to get him into political alliances.
It did.
And that's what I'm gonna.
That was dope.
And that's what he's saying. So he's like, he gets this idea, and he's like, cool. Now that the sex is tied to the plot, I can do whatever I want in the sex scenes. No, bad.
Yes, somebody stop him. Someone message this man and go, "Hey, could you like stop? Because your story would be this would be Japanese Game of Thrones if it wasn't Japanese Game of Thrones with more action scenes."
Little do you know, it's already Japanese Game of Thrones, and it's just your Western sensibilities that
Yeah,
can't
they just
stomach
didn't like the brother sister. They
scenes.
decided to make it father daughter.
Yeah, it was easier for them. So like, it's really
Usagi
fucking
dropping
popular
in
over
here,
there.
see.
Man, can that series just end before the time skip?
So I do have a question. Is it ongoing? Is it?
It's still going. The web novel is still, it's like chapter. I stopped reading at like chapter like 140.
And where did you say we could read
And
it?
it's like, was it light novel translations?
From
We're not
this
suggesting you read
page,
it,
I
but-
see chapter 142. So
But if you want to, you would do it there.
And what's the translation group again?
Light novels translations.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Eh.
good work, I guess. I mean, like,
read the first.
you're
the
translating
first
it.
Couple chapters are like really good when he's like enslaved stuff and getting out, and then the spiritual impact when he returns later and conquers the city where that happened, and then goes in and sees they kept going after he killed everyone. A new dude took over and started enslaving kids. He frees them. As an adult. He frees them. He sees a girl, one of the last ones who recognized him as Ager, because she was one of the girls. She was probably the last girl there still alive from when he was still there, and she ends up joining him because he gives her new life, and they have these touching stuff. But then they have disgusting sex too,
Mhm.
and I don't know. If you can stomach disgusting sex for the most part, or stupid sex scenes for no reason, you'll like the book because everything else around it is good,
All right.
except for that.
Sounds like we've come down on it. If you like graphic sex scenes, you might like this book.
No, graphic sex scenes.
If you like sex scenes written around the terms meat rod, buckets of cum, and I assume her delicate area or gentle voluptuous flower or some shit.
Nah, man, just vag. Just straight up vag all the time.
That's slash. God damn.
or like, God damn it.
I just like use words in sex scenes.
It was like a good D&D story up until the sex
I
happened.
was gonna
It was
say no
super
good
dope.
D&D story involves lots of sex RP.
I mean, it happens in some people's games, not
I want a
mine.
good
not
barbarian run
good
party in a
D&D
game. I
stories.
haven't seen a barbarian leading a party in a while.
That's what I need, man. Like,
we'll work around to it. Eventually, we'll have some D&D contents for to put out on this channels.
Yeah, so I guess we didn't even get to.
okay, we didn't even get to talk about one of his wives who is a former noble who's in hiding and was enslaved that he saved. He inherits her family's sword, which is made of a mithril that can cut through anything. It's
Cool.
sick.
Cool. We didn't even get to talk about.
The time he joins hands with the dwarven version of himself, and they together reap the bodies of poisonous spiders down in the holes of a mountain.
Wait, do the dwarves live in like a parallel reality
Yeah,
where they're
does-
all dwarves, like where it's all the same, but they're
But
dwarves?
Does he
Why is
touch-
there a dwarf version of him?
Does he touch the
Whatever, we
dwarf
didn't
version
even
of
get to
himself
talk
and
about-
suck into himself?
No, but they have an awesome, like, you ever seen Over the Top with Arnold Schwarzenegger and
Yes, I have.
Apollo Creed?
Yes.
You know that awesome, like, arm handshake thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
The
and then
dwarf
the
and him
explosion.
do that, and it is the most glorious
You
thing in
son
the
of a
entire.
bitch.
You son of a bitch!
All right.
Drink
We didn't even
this!
get to talk about. We didn't even get to talk about.
When Ager and the dwarf version himself wrestle each other for dominance to see who's mad enough.
That sounds like a sex scene gone
It
awry.
was not a sex scene. It was actually an awesome battle with their bare hands fucking each other up.
That sounds like the sex
Still
scene
did
right
sound
again
like a
there.
sex scene right
Richard,
there. But what else didn't we get to talk about?
give us one more, Richard. What else did we get to talk about?
He slays the chief of one village of the mountain people, and then he slays them, and then he kills their shaman who shoots lightning bolts at him, and then becomes the leader of their clan and unites all of the mountain people under one flag.
I could be a lightning shaman to unite all the hill folk. That seems like something I could do.
He only got to survive thanks to the vampire cloak given to him by Lucy.
Oh,
That vampire
cheater.
cloak, fucking doing it every time.
Whenever I did that, I had to do it like by myself with like missing an arm.
You can get a vampire cloak. I'll tell you that right
I mean,
now.
vampire cloak that's immune to lightning and fire because it was bathed in the vaginal blood of a vampire. It's pretty strong.
Wait, hold up.
Nope.
What was the
We're
part
done.
of that was
We're done there. Richard, I think that's the end of this book.
All right, so read at your own discretion, guys. This is again the Train the Path of the Heaven podcast. You can email us with suggestions, comments, or concerns.
Tiger.rollercoaster@gmail.com, or you can send us a tweet at Tiger Coaster. And then we've got a website. Holy shit.
Tigercoaster.com.
Tigercoaster.com. You can go to our website and it's got stuff on it. And
It's Lorem Ipsum right now, but you can definitely get links to our podcast on there right now.
And it's got our
Pretty
other
exciting.
podcast on it, Just a Bill, which
Just
you
a
should check
Bill.
out. It's fun.
Just a bill.
We make bills.
Don't you want to know about the guy who has two beholders for eyes?
It's really stupid. I'm going to fight Bill on his stupid bill ideas.
Or the Bill Work, my favorite.
Bill
Bill
work is
work is pretty
amazing.
great.
Bill work is gold.
All right. Well, we'll
I'm
see you
sorry.
guys next time.
I'm sorry, listeners.
I'm
for
sorry
having
that
to
you guys
listen
will
to
miss
this.
out on that lost episode of Just a Bill.
It'll happen again.
We'll catch it again.
And again, I'm sorry if you actually are driven to read this and you're like, oh my God, the sex scenes are so much worse than they explained. I did not want to
tried.
up the maturity rating for our episode by discussing some of those.
Again,
We're already
I don't
on
want to know if there's
explicit.
something past the explicit tag on iTunes.
Yeah.
So
Let's see if we can earn it.
we'll call the sex scene talk there. I believe we'll be back next week with a Korean novel. The tutorial is too hard. If
Oh
I-
my God,
No.
that one is great.
No, I'm going to be out of town. So next week,
Oh,
it's
well,
going to
yeah,
be...
well, that'll be our next one on our normal rotation. Next week, in that case, will be, I believe, I Shall Sail the Heaven Knights.
Or Breakers Nights. Y'all's got some extra nights to do, huh?
Who knows? But expect that next week. We'll be back with just the people who have finished the book, and we will be talking full spoilers.
AKA not fucking me. I'll be in Portland. What's up? If you're in Portland, say hi.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tiger Rollercoaster Productions. Tigers are scary. You try to get off.